Well, welcome Pointer fans to the third edition of our Wisdom Wednesday. We've had two great guests with us so far, legendary athletic director Frank O'Brien. And then last week we heard from two-time national champion Jack Bennett talking about different elements of success. And this week we're lucky. We're joined with a dear friend of mine, somebody who's been instrumental in my career and also was the chair of the search committee when I got this job. So probably the only thing she's done wrong in her career was hire me as the AD, but she's been fantastic. Abbey Sutherland was our head women's volleyball coach at UW-Stevens Point, leaving here with a 146-36 record during her tenure at UW-Stevens Point, won 2 WIC regular season championships, 2 WIC tournament championships, and took us to 2 Final Fours as the head coach before leaving us a couple years ago to Green Bay, to become a Division I, go back to being a Division I head coach. And she's, success hasn't stopped there. Went to Green Bay and got Green Bay back into the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2003, won a regular season championship and a postseason championship, won the Horizon League. Last year came back and had another phenomenal year, 21-9. Including a win against a BCS major, Ohio State. And prior to that, Coach, you were a heck of a Division III player, recent Hall of Fame inductee, is my understanding, at St. Norbert College. For our hockey fans that are watching this, don't cringe too hard. We still love Abbey, even though she was there. But a great player in the Midwest Conference, a Conference Player of the Year a couple times, and an honorable or an all-conference player. Coach Sutherland, thanks for joining us today. We are excited to have you with us on Wisdom Wednesday.
Thank you for inviting me. When I got the message from you, it just made me really excited, and I look forward to kind of reliving some of the great memories that we made at Stevens Point.
Well, our fans sure miss you, and everybody, always talks so highly of you, and I had a chance to work with you. Amazing to have you back. That kind of leads us into the first question is, you had a very successful tenure here at UW-Stevens Point. Describe your experiences here. What was it like to be a Pointer and lead our women's volleyball team to such success?
Well, I am just really fortunate that this job opened up when it did with the timing of my personal life. I was at Southern Miss, and so Stevens Point opened up, decided to take a look at it, and my dad is someone who I look to for advice, and I didn't believe it at the time, but he said, Abby, you can win a national championship if you take that job at Stevens Point. And there's no way I thought that we would get there. And then we found ourselves in year one at the national championships, which was incredible. But the really cool thing was getting to meet the student athletes. And I think experiencing that success early on really helped with the buy-in to working hard and being good teammates and growing personally. And so things just kind of got bigger from there. But I'm really grateful for all the relationships that I've made at Stevens Point. A lot of people have made a great impact on me, and leaving Stevens Point was a very difficult decision. So it was sad to leave, but I'm really happy that I had that experience there at Point.
Well, we miss you, but we knew you had to do that. And know, we root for you. As we often say around here, we have 2 favorite volleyball teams, UW-Stevens Point and UW Green Bay. We're always pulling for the Phoenix, and we've been so excited for your success. And, what you've left here in terms of a legacy. Now, if you look around the conference, you may be at Green Bay, but your influence still persists. Coach Amber Dunn, UW Lacrosse has been was a conference champ and went to the NCAA tournament. And now this last year, we, of course, when you left, there was only one call, and that was to your former assistant, Lindsay Coy, who did a tremendous job, I felt, as your assistant coach and learned from the best. When you left, we brought Coach Coy back, and as our fans would know and our student athletes would know, what a run this year to get a conference tournament championship, make the NCAA tournament, and get them all the way to the Sweet 16. What was it like watching your former assistant and a lot of your former student athletes make such a deep run into the NCAA tournament?
I'm just so proud of them. I'm proud of Lindsay. I think being a first-year head coach is difficult, and they had to go through that journey together. And I just am so proud of her, and I'm sure how she's grown as a coach going into the second season and seeing that success and all of her hard work paying off. I just kept pumping her up because I remember what it was like to be a first-year head coach, and I just think Lindsay learned a lot moving forward, and like all of her hard work paid off to get there. Same thing with the student athletes. I was with Delaney McCreary, so she now is on our staff at Green Bay, and we were fortunate to have to be able to watch the match. So we were on the road, and we watched both matches on the big screen in our hotel room. Of them beating Whitewater, I think, at the end of season, and then the following weekend winning again in 5. And I have goosebumps thinking about it now, and there were tears in my eyes. So I'm just really grateful that I was able to see it live. I was mostly happy. There was part of me that was just like, I don't know how to describe it, because I loved Stevens Point and being part of that. So I wanted to be there for it. But I think the team, I really wanted them to experience the NCAA tournament as well. So I was just proud of all that hard work paying off, worked to stay in touch with a lot of those young women. And I'm just so happy for all of them, because I think they had to go through some struggle, and they had a really tough schedule throughout that time. So it all set up for the right moment and for them to make that NCAA run.
It was a special year, and you promised them when you took the Green Bay job, which I know firsthand how hard that was for you and was the right decision. You promised them if they continue to do the right thing and we find, go down the right path, they would find the success they deserved. And I agree with you. It was fun to watch them have that. And that kind of leads me into you as a coach. Having a chance to work with you. I had an opportunity to coach a long time in my career, and one of the greatest things about coming to Stevens Point is I've learned so much from the great coaches around me, yourself included. And you really started 4 years ago with when you and I worked together. You really got me moving on this growth mindset and the idea of having a growth mindset. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to watch Coach live. We're talking about one of the fieriest people I know, who has the most calm demeanor possible, and that and believes in the growth mindset and getting better through improvement. Can you walk us through growth mindset and what that means for you and your programs, both at Green Bay and UW Stevens Point?
Yes. I've started the growth mindset approach starting in maybe 2014. I started reading about it through a website called trainugly.com, which is now Learner Lab, and it's a great podcast I recommend checking out. It talks all about learning. And coming to Stevens Point, I think, reignited my passion for learning. I was a head coach very young at Southern Miss, and I didn't know what I was doing. And coming to Stevens Point, I had my hands in a lot more things because we had Amber, who was the assistant coach, but I also had to teach. There wasn't as much staffing, and so I had to find a way to get better. And I'm so thankful that I had that at Stevens Point. I think it's made me who I am today. And I still feel like I'm a lot different than 2014, 2013. I'm always working to grow, and I think that's part of the growth mindset. It's a buzzword, so you have to be careful because people say it, but you really have to study it and really practice it. I've learned with our young women at Green Bay, we talk about it every day, but they still need to hear that message until it finally seeps in that making mistakes is okay. And it's about getting better versus looking good. And it's about being daring. And even if you make a mistake, you still want to get outside your comfort zone. So we talk about examples like when you're skiing, Rib Mountain is a little north of Stevens Point. You have to feel a little bit out of control to get better. Not enough to where you're going to tumble down the mountain, but I guess it's a mountain. But you want to make sure that you're in that growth zone. And so we talk about that every day, and we use different resources to help, not just me, because you don't want to hear me talking about it all the time, but I think Brene Brown always says courage over comfort. The Learner Lab is another great example of getting outside your comfort zone and really being passionate about learning, forming habits by creating an environment. So, and then the biggest part and piece of it is you grow more when you feel psychologically safe. And that is proven. Google did a lot of research on that. And the safe learning environment is really what we preach. And I want our team to feel like they can be okay with making mistakes, because you're annoyed enough when you make mistakes. You don't need someone to put that pressure on you. And there were a couple times I realized coaching this past season during stressful matches where I was like, I don't need to get on them. I don't need to say anything. They're stressed enough. So we just encourage them to be daring and brave rather than making the safe plays. We want them to work on making those daring plays and really go for it when times are stressful. And I don't like the term be fearless because we have to say that fear is there and it's part of our amygdala. And so back in the day, it was telling us to stay safe and survive from being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. And now that fear is telling us to go away from making the safe plays when we use that as almost a navigation tool. Like, I'm feeling that fear, so that means I'm headed in the right direction. So I feel it, so let's be brave during that moment.
Unbelievable advice, and I've learned so much from you that we still use, even during this unprecedented time, where nobody has any idea exactly how to navigate this, but not to be afraid of it. A little follow-up to that, Coach, I follow you and your team pretty closely, and you have some unique ways in the preseason of putting people on equal footing, things like fishing and canoeing. And you want to talk a little bit about how you take really skilled volleyball players and maybe put them on equal footing, because they maybe not have done, maybe somebody's an All-American volleyball player, but has never seen a fishing pole in their life or something along those lines. What that's meant to you and your teams?
Yeah, I think it's important for us leaders to model feeling uncomfortable. And so you and I, Brad, I think it's important that we get in front of our student athletes and show them that we're uncomfortable at times. And even on these Zoom calls with our team, I'm willing to share things that kind of give some emotional exposure to how I'm feeling and just some of my weaknesses, because that's what creates connection. And so, we don't like to fail, but putting our team in situations where they do feel uncomfortable together is going to bring us closer. So I would say fishing, I felt okay because I grew up doing that sometimes. I don't like taking the fish off the hooks, but some of our young ladies had never done that before, and we had contests. So I'm sorry about my dog.
Oh, no worries.
So we had contests where whoever, got the biggest fish, and it was someone who had never fished before, which was really cool. And then we did a ropes course. So we felt incredibly uncomfortable there. I was very nervous. I guess I thought I was going to attack it and be really, really brave. But I got up there even 10 feet on the first level, and I was scared. So I showed that I was scared in front of the team, and I think they appreciated that. So as much as we can model that, I think is important.
Talking about that in celebration of student athletes, it's D3 week, something you were familiar with when you were with us and at St. Norbert. It's a real celebration of an odd time. Our student athletes are kind of spread out and learning distance and doing some different things, but in celebration of D3 week, you were both a high-level, very successful student athlete and head coach. Knowing there are great values at Division III and at Division I and at every division, could you comment about the Division III student athlete experience and then maybe the differences or similarities between the divisions?
Sure. Yeah, I value D3 a lot, and I especially valued it coming from a Division I school to come coach at Stevens Point, just the young women that I worked with were the same. It's coaching, and I transitioned back. They're the same young women who I think need guidance and want to be their best selves. And it's our job as leaders to help them get there. And so there's no difference in Division III or Division I, and Stevens Point has incredibly talented athletes. And so the big thing that I think the difference is Division III has to initiate a lot of that on their own. We don't get as many hours in the gym, especially in the non-traditional season. If the culture's in the right place, that they're putting in a lot of work, as much work as a lot of Division I programs, because that's what you have to do to be successful, but it's more player-led. Division I is still, we get 20 hours a week right now in non-traditional for a good chunk, and there's more opportunity to compete. But Division III, I think a lot of the women I worked with, they filled their calendars playing in summer league and playing in all of these tournaments, and they found ways to grow on their own and still have that player-led team culture. So there's pluses to both, but I would say the WIAC is obviously one of the top leagues in the nation in Division III, and it's an incredible athletic opportunity to play. And I'm proud that I was part of the Pointer family.
We're certainly proud of you, Coach. And, your comments remind me of a comment I shared with our staff this week. The Iowa State football coach played at Mount Union and coached at Mount Union. And when asked this week how he could possibly prepare his student athletes for the fall season without having a spring, he laughed and said, "We did just fine at Mount Union, and we certainly didn't have a lot of time." So I think there are some values of Division III certainly that may traject up to Division I as we get back into the fall, and asking our student athletes to certainly do some things on their own. Shifting gears just a little bit, Coach, you were highly impactful not only at UW Stevens Point, but in the WIAC. The WIAC has an initiative around volleyball, Play for a Cause. And this year we hit a milestone as a conference. The dollars raised to whatever cause the 8 institutions want to donate to surpassed $200,000. I know you've been instrumental at Green Bay of bringing some community engagement to your Phoenix team there as well, and certainly some traditions that continue at Stevens Point. Could you comment on the impact volleyball has as a community and some of the initiatives that you're passionate about?
Yeah, well, my mom's sick. She has early onset Alzheimer's, and I believe everyone has a story and a cause that's important. I choose to be vulnerable with my team and tell them what I struggle with, and there are a lot of people who are impacted by Alzheimer's, and so Lindsay saw firsthand how that affected me and our family, and my dad is very involved. And how that affects him as a caregiver, and same thing with Amber. So I know all 3 of us have done Attacking Alzheimer's and Raising Alzheimer's Awareness events in the past, and we've been able to raise a lot of money for it. And it's not about just raising money, which is incredible, but it's sharing our stories, because that's how we connect. And even though it's difficult for me, I choose to share my story because I feel so out of control in so many ways with this disease. And if this is my way to control things a little bit, that's what I'm going to do. And we've had people reach out, especially with being on the news and just being on this platform at Stevens Point and Green Bay, where we've helped them, because you do feel so helpless and you don't know how to handle people who are going through the stages of Alzheimer's, or even if it's happening. Sometimes you don't know what's wrong with that person before they're diagnosed. So if that's a way where we can make a difference, I think that's pretty special. And what's even more special to me is it really means a lot that there's so many student athletes that I've coached that really support me in this journey. And I feel loved by a lot of our Pointers and a lot of Green Bay volleyball players, and I really appreciate it.
Well, those still exist. Obviously at Stevens Point, we're committed to having a day and a game that recognizes it. I believe Amber still does that at lacrosse. And, so if we can continue to message that there's a lot of research still needed and time and awareness. We certainly miss you and your dad. Your dad does get back to the game when he can. For those of you that never saw the Point team play, when Abbey was here or on our Purple Day, our Alzheimer's awareness event, there was a fixture in the corner of the gym, and that was Rob Sutherland. I mean, I don't think there was ever a man more nervous, more excited, more passionate about teams than your dad, and we love having him back. I did get a chance to sit with him this fall, and it's fun to have your family back in town. And we're certainly behind you and the Pointers and across the league. I think it's phenomenal what our league has been able to do for all kinds of causes, obviously including some stuff that we're passionate about together. Ab, I'm going to finish this off. We're in some unprecedented times. Something we know that won't last forever, but certainly feels like it, now. What advice do you have for student athletes during these unprecedented times, or just in general? What is it that you're looking for from your student athletes, your leaders, and certainly during these times as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to look into the future really far ahead. Something we heard as a team last week is inch by inch it's a cinch, yard by yard it's hard. And so we, as student athletes, you need structure, but also we don't know an end for this right now. So focusing on what you can control within your locus of control and taking it hour by hour and finding a way to get better. And something I say that I came up with is, when all of this is done, I want to say that I was innovative and that I got better. And I'm actually working out more than I ever have before, which I'm thankful for. But an initiative we're taking every Tuesday with our team is mental health. So we Zoom regularly, and on Tuesdays we have them do a journaling exercise and talk about how they're doing. I really feel like a personal responsibility to help each one of our student athletes, but it's also on them. So even if you can't meet with your leaders every day, I recommend connecting, because that's the best way that you can feel better about everything, getting up and moving, getting outside. And then me personally, I'm working on brainstorming. I just FaceTimed with Lindsay last week, and I know that the Pointers did a Jeopardy game, so we got that idea from her, and she's working to be innovative, and we just want to collaborate and share ideas so that we can all help each other. But yeah, that personal growth and that growth mindset, it comes back to this, because I told our team this morning, we would still be in a grind phase right now with practicing. It's a different type of grind, and this is more mentally taxing, but pushing through it is important. And I want to handle this better than other teams can handle it. And I truly believe that with that guidance that our team can do that. And I know the Pointers will do that as well.
Yeah, it goes back to, we got choices right now. We can be a victim of our circumstance, or we can come out better. And, I learned that from you, and it stays in my mind, and I'm certainly appreciative of what you continue to bring to your team at Green Bay. And I know you're influential to not only Lindsay and our Pointers, but our entire department as well. So as is tradition with our Wisdom Wednesday, we leave our guests with the final word. So Coach, thank you from me and our fans for coming on today. And you mean a lot to us. Your family means a lot to us. And we're glad Green Bay is Division I, because then we can root 100% for you. So we're always behind you too. So Coach, thanks again. And we'll leave you with the final words for the week.
Okay. Well, Nat, I guess really words of wisdom. I just want to thank you, Brad, for inviting me on. This brings back really good memories. And I'm thankful that the committee hired you. I think that you're a special leader. You find a way to care personally and also challenge directly, which is hard to do being an athletic director. And I think that's a really unique quality, and you should be proud of that. And I think that Stevens Point's under some great leadership through these difficult times. And I'm also just so proud of Lindsay, and I'm so happy that she's with Point, because I know that she's a great leader and is got a positive culture with the volleyball team, and I'll always be rooting for them.
Well, thanks, Coach. And we always end with Go Pointers, and today we'll end with Go Phoenix and Pointers. Thanks again.
Okay.
See you next Wednesday.